Hey there, super friends. It's Joey with Last Point Gaming. Today is Friday, March 1st, 2019. So, a couple confirmations from my episode yesterday. One, confirmed Ben somebody is in fact Ben Stark. Two, confirmed Martin Yuza, as it turns out, is not an insufferable tool. Todd Anderson actually very nicely tweeted out today apologetic towards Martin for
on Pennsylvania 230 West. You are on the fastest route. You should reach your destination in 1707.
Thank you. I turned off your voice for a reason. Why did you turn it back on? Anyway, that apparently he had a back and forth with Martin Yuza, and turns out that some of the problems were caused by the fact that Martin Yuza is not a native English-speaking person. English is his second language, and let's all be honest, English isn't so much a language as three sub-languages all in a trench coat pretending to be a language. So, like when he says things like, sorry you're offended, which, okay, yeah. From somebody who natively speaks the English language and everything, saying, sorry you're offended is definitely non-apology. I'm not sorry for what I said or did. I'm sorry you're a little bitch and you can't take it, right? Whereas what he was aiming for was more of, sorry I offended. But all in all, I stand by the things I said yesterday. Like, yeah, this was a kind of ill-conceived qualification measure, but it was a one-time thing. The Mythic Championship qualification through Arena is going to be different and going to be more structured and less of a kind of a shit show and a crapshoot. And I still think the wisest course of action any MPL player could have taken yesterday is just keeping their head down and their mouth shut. That being said, I was hanging out in Brad Nelson's stream today. And, hey, while I was hanging out there, I figured I'd give him an ask. See if he was willing to express his opinion about the whole thing, while also just completely spelling out if he, didn't want to talk about it, felt it was not appropriate. He could feel free to just completely ignore my comment in chat and just, not even observe it. Because it is an extremely touchy subject, and it's very difficult for an MPL player to say anything other than, I wholeheartedly stand with the community and I am going to refuse to play in this event because of this bullshit. That's not going to be taken by some, in a really poor fashion. And if we're being honest, no MPL player should really be expected to do that. And, he seemed to be kind of on the same line I am, that yeah, it was kind of a mess, and maybe it wasn't the best thought out thing, but it's a one-time deal, and, now 8 people are going to get to play in this, super exciting invitational and everything. And as far as the shit show on Twitter yesterday, he decided that he was just going to stay the hell out of it because there was no real point in getting involved. Which I think was a wise move on his part. Because again, people were angry, so they were going to automatically see anything that wasn't unquestioning. Oh, sweet. Didn't get clobbered by that pothole. I tensed up and cringed and everything because I was expecting it, but I must have adjusted in time. So, Plus, the other thing, even without the language barrier, because, again, English is a really nuanced language. You can learn English and you can speak it and write it, even what one would consider fluently. But, like, one of the woman who used to be the admin for my project, she was natively from the Caribbean. I'm not sure which language she was, but English was her second language. And she would often ask me to proofread emails before she sent them out. Just like team notification stuff. Because like she had a lot of trouble with using the correct tense. Because in English, we have many tenses, it isn't even just a simple past, present, future, things like, are you seeing, or you said somebody else was seeing. Like, there's a lot of nuances to our language that it's almost like Latin. It's kind of like when you look up, you go to Google Translate and you're like, hey, I want to say, which I'm going to learn how to say something close to my entry in, oh God, what is the name of the language? The native language of New Zealand, because according to SoundCloud, I now have a lot of New Zealand listeners. So, hi friends. You should check out Viva La Dirt League. They're from your neck of the woods. If your neck of the woods is an entire country. Which, by the way, if you have not ever checked out the YouTube channel Viva La Dirt League, highly, highly recommend. I'm pretty sure I've talked about them before. Oh, I love them. Fine folks. Epic NPC Man is my favorite of their series, but their PUBG Logic series is also incredibly amusing, along with their board series. In any case, I digress. So, not even taking into account losing the nuances of the English language, the character count limitation, I've often talked about this on Twitter, really gears Twitter towards being a toxic environment, because it's already text-based communication, so you're already losing tone, which, makes you like plus 10 to misinterpretation. And then when you add onto that the fact that you're trying to make what you're trying to say fit in this small character count, you start removing softening language. Like, oh, well, in my experience, A plus B, is equal to C, and here's a little bit about that. And you end up with A plus B is C, which to somebody who is in disagreement of that or not happy about that, you can come across as, listen here, asshole, A plus B is C. And that's not the tone you're going for. And I think that's a lot of what happened yesterday. As far as like the community suddenly turning on the MPL players because they were invited to this invitational tournament and not every player was, that one kind of puts my mind in a bottle. Like, and yes, I know the actual phrase is mind-boggling. Boggle, like the game where you shake up the letters, not bottle, like thing that you get wine out of. But it's a fun joke, and now it's not as fun because I had to go through and explain it so I don't sound like a freaking idiot. Anyway, all that aside. So, a lot of people were very supportive of Jerry Thompson choosing to sit out Worlds and, give up a nice payday to take a stand and say, you want us to sell this dream, but this dream is actually kind of a nightmare. And people were very supportive of the pros, being able to be compensated in some way other than tournament winnings, because tournament winnings are undependable, and let's be honest, aside from a tournament like Worlds where the top payout's $100,000, tournament winnings, even if you're hitting first in the majority of the tournaments you're playing in, which you will not by the nature of the game, it's the amount of tournaments you have to win to make up a livable amount of money once you start factoring in travel costs, deck costs, dude, yeah, I'm merging. Like, it's happening. You just need to accept it there, friend. Wait, does this... I'm so confused. No, that lane does become this lane. Wow. Okay. I mean, that's cool and all. You can totally be in front of me. I'm okay with that. But anyway, I was, definitely all about pros being paid. Professional football players get paid. Professional athletes of all sorts get paid. Actors get paid. Because there was a lot of pushback of, you want to be paid to play a card game. Well, I mean, when that's what you do professionally, and we want the pros there, right? Everybody likes having these people to look up to and be like, hey, that could be me, if that's your thing. Or in my case, just neat people on the internet. So, I'm all about the pros getting paid. And the MPL, as it currently stands, seems like kind of a pilot program. WotC's testing the waters, seeing how this pans out, if this generates some value. And so it was a relatively small list of players. And they seem to really focus on, fan favorites. And, people who are good for the community, for the most part. I know there's some people on the MPL roster that either have a history or are not people's favorite. But I think the MPL players getting paid is great. And everybody was totally down with that when it was announced. And then this happens, and it's, fuck the MPL. And for WotC to do a tournament like this invitational and not invite their MPL players, that would have been a really ass-backwards way of doing things. It wouldn't have made any sense whatsoever. You're paying these players to play professionally, and you have this highly prestigious tournament, and they're not invited? What the fuck? Now, as far as turning on MPL players that maybe came across as aggressive or mean about people complaining about this, really kind of shitty qualification system. Again, I think when that gripe fest started, it would have been in every MPL's player's best interest to just not weigh in. That being said, a few of them chose to. And, I mean, they're allowed to have their opinions. What the fuck? Okay. Something hit my windshield. Glad I have it. So, yeah, that's really all there is to that, I guess. So it does suck that people turned on the MPL as a whole. And I feel like if you wanted to, rage about it, maybe focus on the players that were actually making statements and not loop them all together. But anyway, that's all over and done. The announcement yesterday that was happening while I was recording my episode yesterday was for this Modern Horizons. And so this supplemental product that's coming out, it's going to have some reprints of not Modern era cards, which will make them Modern legal, which I think is an interesting mechanic for introducing things into Modern that would be broken in Standard. Because, before you say, well, they have supplemental products to not put things in Standard, that's true. But aside from the Modern Master, even the Modern Master sets, honestly, previously were all reprints of already Modern legal cards. Conspiracy doesn't add cards to Modern. The Commander decks, that's why you can't play True Name Nemesis in Modern. It only adds cards to the Eternal formats, which Modern is not. There is a distinction that Modern is not an Eternal format, Modern is a non-rotating format. And these are slightly different things. So I'm really interested to see what all from, the pre-Modern pool gets introduced and how that goes. I'm fascinated by this. But it's also going to have a bunch of new cards going directly to Modern, which of course then will be legal in the Eternal formats. And one of the spoilers that has already come out, which I am super fucking excited about, is Sarah is getting her own card finally. So I'll be able to give Sarah all her shit, like her blessing and her embrace and her angel. I'm still holding out hope that we're going to see an Urza. I'm actually kind of holding out hope that we see Urza in War of the Spark, because that set's supposed to have 1 billion planeswalkers in it, which is fascinating. Somebody came up. See, here's the thing. They had that really, I want to call it shitty, but I do want to call it shitty, the really teasery trailer that really didn't give you any intel whatsoever. And the rumor mill has spit out that there's going to be I want to say it's 50 planeswalkers in this set. And the general consensus seems to be that the number was derived from the number of candles that were on the chandelier. Now, really, until the mothership confirms anything, I'm loath to believe it. Because internet detectives love to be internet detectives. And cool, it is a fun pastime. And yeah, I'm sure it's super exciting when you stop the video and count the exact number of candles, and it turns out that you're correct, that that's the number of planeswalkers that will be in the set. Yeah, I'm sure that's really cool and everything. And, if that's something you find joy in, cool, go you. I'm just not going to believe you until it's confirmed, I'm sorry. Speculation's fun. But yeah, there's supposed to be a crap ton of planeswalkers in the set, and apparently, now I have not picked through the video to see what planeswalkers were on all the windows and everything. Believe it or not, I actually have better things to do with my time. But there have been people mentioning which planeswalkers were on the windows, and apparently Urza is in fact on one of them. Look, even if the guy is a legendary spirit creature or whatever, fine. He doesn't even have to be a planeswalker. I just want an Urza card that's not a head. All of Urza. Or disembodied Urza. You all or nothing concerning the body parts. So, I'm really excited to find out more about what this War of the Spark set is, because, yeah, there's a new image that's been released that's Nicol Bolas, and there's something above his head, and people are trying to figure out what that is, if it's the Mask of Yawgmoth, or if it's the Immortal Sun, which I believe was from Ixalan, and we're not on Ixalan. There was some speculation that is in fact the Cage Sun, which was from the card Cage Sun was from New Phyrexia, but had a Mirrodin watermark on it. So we could be going back to New Phyrexia, which not sure how I feel about that, really. No, not sure how I feel about that. So, yeah, I'm really excited to see what this new set is, and if it has a billion planeswalkers, like, how are you going to do that? Are there going to be, like, regular rare planeswalkers as opposed to mythic rare? What's up with all that? But that has also led to conversations making people aware that there are more planeswalkers than the planeswalker cards. Urza and Mishra were planeswalkers, Sarah. Oh my, so very many more. Not to mention the original concept of the game was that you were in fact a planeswalker. Can we just have a get off my lawn moment for a second here and let me express my chagrin with the planeswalker cards. I mean, I play them when they're good, but I've never been really a fan of them. I'm sure I've told this story before, but I don't care. I'm going to tell it again. My first experience with planeswalkers, I had this old green-white elves and angels deck, because, you know, back in the day, if you were going to play angels, you needed elves, or you were dead before you got anything on the battlefield. I think the newest card in it may have been from Urza's Destiny. It was an old deck I had in my, hall closet. The doctor, an old friend of mine, was going to come to town. He used to live like 4 hours away, so it was a big deal when he came to town. And him and Epidemic were going to come over to my place, and we were going to play Magic. So I dug this deck out, and I went over to the clubhouse. I do not miss that place. And, Skaith was there, and this is when he was playing, like, really competitively. I think he had qualified for his first Pro Tour at that point. I was like, yeah, let's sit down, I'll bring this deck with me, and we can sit down and play a couple games, and I can, brush off the old skills. And, he plays, I think it was Jace Beleren. I want to say, like, the OG Jace Planeswalker. Well, he plays it, and he goes, are you familiar with Planeswalkers? Well, I'm playing white. And, yeah, I'm familiar with Planeswalk. It's an obnoxious fucking mechanic. Yeah, I don't miss the walk mechanics. So, I totally know about Planeswalkers. And he keeps, like, moving a die. Well, I remembered, I didn't really play much when they were a thing, but there were the weird little level up cards. So I was like, oh, it must be one of those. And then he's like, mill 20. And I'm like, what? Why? And he's like, Jace. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? And I look at it, and I'm like, what the hell is a Planeswalker? And he's like, you said you knew. I'm like, I know about creatures with Planeswalk. And he's like, oh, no. This is much different. Sure enough, it was quite different. But yeah, I'm really excited about what they're doing with this Modern Horizons set. I'm intrigued to see where it goes. Also intrigued to see what happens with this War of the Spark set. And I'm gonna buy a play set of Sarah's. I don't know that they're gonna be good in Modern. I don't know that they're even really gonna be playable. But it is Sarah on a Planeswalker card. So, gotta have it. She is, like, my favoritist of the Ancient Walkers. Oh, that's not true. Urza's still my favorite. Sorry, Sarah. Urza's still my favorite. So, a lot of neat stuff coming up. We're currently in the first, like, real season on Arena. I got knocked back to gold from platinum, which I was surprised I only got one level hit this time. Because at the end of the last preseason, I want to say I had just broken diamond before the reset. Like, I was Diamond 4 when the reset happened, and I got reset all the way back down to Silver. And had ground my way back up to Platinum. I was having some fun. So, there's the Travis Sowers token deck. I don't know if I actually already told the story or not, but again, I'm just going to tell it again anyway. So there's Travis Sowers Naya token deck. And I took that, and I took out the Adanto Vanguards. I actually don't like Adanto Vanguard, like, at all. Adanto Vanguard would be good in a standard Boggles style deck, or Bogle style deck, where you were putting a ton of shit on it and you wanted to protect it. It's not... Like, I have attacked with a 2/2, been blocked by an Adanto Vanguard, and had the person playing it pay 4 life to keep it from dying. And I'm like, so you just turned my 2/2 into essentially a 4/2. Like, what? How does that make any sense? Like, you were further ahead to just not block. So I took them out and I put in Hero Precinct 1. Because there's a bunch of multicolored cards. This is a fine idea. And I've named the deck Hirokin. And so now every time I win a match, I yell Hirokin. So far, Girly McBabyface is the only person besides me that is amused by this. And I think she just likes it when I yell. Like, I think she just finds that funny. She's like, Ma's being crazy again. So, you know, I mean, I'm gonna play and stuff, but I'm not chasing that Mythic too hard. It's not my style. Like, I have no real aspirations to ever be a pro player. I am always going to be a no-name scrub player in the Magic community, and I'm okay with that. Like, I'm fine with that. But to these players that I really enjoy watching on the internet and really enjoy getting to meet at tournaments, I'm glad they're being paid. I'm glad that WotC is finally kind of catching up to SCG in that respect. And even SCG, I don't know. I don't know what the setup is for them because, you know, I'm not privy to that information, nor should I be. But I feel like, you know, they probably have contracts with the content creation and everything. Like, these players aren't creating content for WotC the way the SCG players are, but in a way they kind of are because they do have a streaming requirement. So... I'm really glad that they're getting paid, and I'm glad that WotC is taking that look to, like, oh, we really want to be a legitimate esport. And, you know, accepting that means that you have to put something out there that people want. So it'd be nice to see them eventually expand the MPL, or if, you know, they're doing well on the esport front, you know, players getting sponsors and whatnot, so that they can play professionally and not live in poverty. You know, because that's the real struggle there. Like, people look at John Finkel and they're like, yeah, I want to be like, you know, Johnny Magic, and I want to be this super successful Magic player and have all this money. Like, you need to realize, one, John Finkel is also a renowned poker player, and he's not the only pro player that is. There are a few of them, but a lot of them with, like, you know, a better lifestyle that are seen as just Magic pros, they're probably pro poker players too, because the payouts on those tournaments are much, much better. But the other thing is, John Finkel worked in the finance industry. Like, he made a lot of money outside of gaming, as far as I know, based on, you know, articles I've read about him and that kind of thing. I don't, like every other pro player I mentioned, I do not know him personally or anything like that. But based on articles I've read, you know, he made a lot of money outside of the gaming arena, you know, including poker, like outside of poker as well. So I think it's good that, you know, 70 grand a year, I'm sure to some players sounds like a shit ton of money. And it's good salary. But when you factor in that, they have to supply their own cards for these tournaments, and they got to keep competing at tournaments, and they have to pay to travel to them, and they have to pay entry fees. I mean, I don't know how much of that's covered by the MPL, like how much they can expense, if they get to expense anything. But Brad Nelson just bought this super sexy ass high-end computer so that he can stream and have a good stream. And I doubt that was, something that he got an expense account for. I'm sure that came out of, his paycheck from the MPL. Plus, high-speed internet. Plus, I know some of the streamers pay people to create their, overlays and everything. I don't know if he did or if he did that himself, or, players pay graphic designers to do their emoticons for them and everything. So there is cost to this, like any other profession. I spend money on getting myself back and forth to work, and my nice office clothes, and a lot of makeup products and hair care products and everything, to kind of put forth the best image I can. Every job has expenses, and professional magic is no different. In fact, it probably has more expenses than your average job, depending on, again, what's reimbursed and what's not. So I think it's great that they're being paid, so that they can really devote, full time to doing this. And I think some people are going to be salty for the sake of being salty. There's the first confirmed arena top 8 player is a woman, and apparently she's the girlfriend or wife or female SO to a well-known professional player. Yeah, I don't recognize her name, and the douchebag that decided to go on a tirade about this did not mention the name of the pro player she's associated with, and just made some shitty comments about oh, it must be nice to have your pro player boyfriend, husband, or whatever tell you what to do. And dude, don't try to diminish other people's accomplishments that you weren't able to accomplish. Okay, yeah, this qualification system was not the best thought out system ever. And there were plenty of professional players, not on the MPL that couldn't make it there. Not to mention MPL players that were grinding on Arena and still not, if they weren't automatically qualified because they're in the MPL, they wouldn't be going. So she made it, and give her props, and don't try to strip her victory from her and give it to somebody else. That's bullshit. And I feel like some of the animosity towards the MPL players from the community could have something to do with, but I wasn't invited to play in the MPL. Well, these players have put in a lot of years on the road, going to tournaments and scraping by to get there. And I'm not saying that there aren't players that have done the same grind that weren't invited to play, but if you weren't invited to the MPL and you're that high caliber player, one, you're probably not listening to this, but if you are, cool, thanks, I guess. But, maybe you should look at trying to identify why you weren't invited and what you can do to make yourself more, brand yourself and be more appealing for an invite in the future. But that's what I got to say on it. I've been in the driveway for 5 minutes now, and husband's pulling in, so I gotta go. As always, if you made it this far with me, thank you very much for listening, and hopefully I'll talk to y'all on Monday.